Good morning and welcome to Lisa's Changing Perceptions, brought to you in part by Bremer Team, Keller Williams Success Realty. BremerTeam.com, 847-456-6334. They bring families home. And speaking of being home, this almost feels like coming home because it's been I think I've only done one of your shows since you got back from Colorado.
You've just been a busy man.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's
sorry.
Okay.
But
there's no apologies needed. I'm glad to hear everything's going well and you're doing life. And so are you. Things are wonderful. And today, well, you've got stuff to tell people about, and we got stuff to talk about. And we are going to put up the link here for anybody who wants to jump in and join the show. You'll just click the link, turn on your camera, follow the instructions, turn on your camera and your mic, and you can actually stream in live with Lisa this morning if you'd like. And today you're asking, what is peace? Is that right? What is peace? That is our topic for today.
Okay.
So I would love people to link in today if they choose to and discuss it or conflict with me about the view of it. That's fine too. I accept that. So I do encourage that. But click the link and join in with us. But I'll start off with, I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions. I am a self-empowerment coach, hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, and EFT. I specialize in EST, dealing with anxiety, stress, coping skills, changing habits. I deal with all of those different topics and many more that I could list on and on. Basically, if you are self-sabotaging, if you are miserable and unhappy and you don't know how to pull out of it, if you are struggling to see life differently so that you can move forward in a different direction, if you are repeating old patterns that are causing conflict in your life, those are all the main topics that people come in with. And I work with the tools to help to change that so that you can see it differently. I tell everybody I am not magic. I cannot just make everything disappear, but I can give you the tools that you need in order to change them and change them permanently by seeing them differently. So that's what I do there in the office. And we're going to talk about a topic today that comes up so regularly. So I want to discuss it today. And again, I encourage anybody to come in and either share their experience or their thoughts on it, or in truth, even if you choose that you conflict with me on how I see it, that's cool. I can handle that. Let's get a dialogue going if possible. I'd love to make this show more interactive, but I do know that people struggle sometimes with sharing their inner mess publicly on the air. So I do get it. And if you choose to make a comment in the feed rather than calling in, that's fine. And I talked to Kent about this last week. And what we're going to do is we're going to start only using first names when people comment in the feed so that they can feel more comfortable that out on the air, their full name isn't being exposed. And maybe they'll feel more comfortable to say what it is they need to say. So we can just use first names only when we do in the feed. Just putting that out there. I know that it's a different kind of topic because I've asked people, like, they'll call, I'll get phone calls afterwards. I'll get emails. I'll get messages on Facebook. I'll get texts because people do have questions, but it seems to be a discomfort with, I don't want my, stuff put out there to the public. So I was thinking about it. And that was kind of what I told Kent last week. Let's do that where we're not going to use people's last names. It's only going to be a first name. If you prefer even only your initials, tell Pete that in the comment. Initials only, so that Pete knows that you would prefer not to have that put out there. Maybe you have a really unusual first name. Maybe your whole family listens. I don't know. There's all kinds of reasons for it. So please feel free. And if you do not agree with me, I'm actually okay with that too. Bring it up. Maybe you're going to either open up a space in my mind to see it differently, or we're going to have a really good dialogue back and forth about that where we both learn something. So I don't have a problem with somebody who doesn't agree with me. My ego and arrogance is out the door, not here. It doesn't sit behind this desk. So please, and feel free. So I know that Pete will have a lot to say with this one this morning because he is very interactive with me on the show.
Yeah.
So when clients come into my office, I usually have a life history questionnaire is what it's called. And I send that to them
You
ahead of
have a
time.
book. You have massive homework. It's not just a questionnaire. It's, it's 10 miles long.
It's 8 pages.
Yes.
And
Oh,
it's called a life
but
history
I
questionnaire.
know it actually is it's very, very useful. It's
It
very
and
constructive.
it gives me a snapshot kind of picture of the background, because the parts of the person that I deal with, and excuse me, the majority of people, not all, but the majority of people who come to see me have been through years and years and years and years of talk therapy. And all they feel like they've done is repeated the same story over and over again. And although they have gotten something from it, so I'm not criticizing talk therapy, they have not been able to overcome that mind talk and that self-sabotage. So I help with the next step, which is to actually go into the unconscious mind, which is the part of the mind that talks back to us, the part of the mind is that voice, when we say we're going to conquer something and we get all excited about it. And then all of a sudden that self-sabotage comes up of why should I bother? Or if I do this, so-and-so will be upset, or, everybody's is a little bit different. It's that mind talk. And we can go in and actually give new images, new views, new thought perceptions, and see that from a different perspective, because the reality of it is that voice and those perspectives that are sabotaging you created many, many, many years ago before you had life experience. Because the majority of our unconscious thought process comes from the ages of 9 and below. And they're things that we absorbed and decisions that we made before we had life experiences. That's why I've often talked about my belief has become that the meaning of life is to be born this pure, innocent soul. And then we absorb all these things in the unconscious mind to learn how to survive in the world. Until we're about 8 or 9, and then we go into our critical mind and then our conscious mind. But that absorbing in that unconscious mind that was developed, that's where we learned how to survive. That's where we learned what life was. That's how we learned how to perceive things based on our environment. So saying that alone, some of us, if we look at our environments and the things that we experienced at those ages prior to that, we made decisions in those moments about life and about survival and about who we were within that, about what makes us feel good, what doesn't make us feel good, coping skills. I mean, we developed so many things, and it was before we had life experience in order to evaluate that. So although we do decide that we're going to go forward in a different direction, that self-sabotage drawing us back, that struggle drawing us back, is that child mind, so to speak, the unconscious mind, that child mind that pulls us back to those original beliefs that we decided on a long time ago. And through hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming, and even EFT, we can go in and we can change that perspective with your adult version being in charge. And it is not magic. People think they want to come in for one session of hypnosis and all of a sudden like their whole world is different. I will tell you, if that was the case, I would be like the richest person on the planet and people would be lined up outside my door. That is really not the case. There is work involved. There is tools involved. My point is that it is possible. And I do see a lot of success with it. I've been very proud of what has come out of the office. And I'm very flattered by some of the texts and emails that I receive for people down the road. So I'm kind of putting that out there because, there seems to be a misunderstanding as to what it is that I do. So I wanted to clear that up a little bit today. The other key factor people don't realize is that self-sabotage mind, that inner child mind, there's a million different words for your unconscious mind that people use, is 88% of the thinking process. So 88% of our thinking process is not even from a conscious adult view. It's the sabotage, it's the push, it's the decisions that we made a long time ago. And I have clients come in for many different reasons. But one of the questions that I ask when people come in is, what is it that you're coming in for today? What is it that you're hoping to find? What brought you to my office? Because everybody has their different reasons.
Right.
The majority of them will say, I want to find peace in my life. Okay, that's a legit thing, right?
Well, yeah.
Until I say, what is peace? What is peace to you? Because peace to you and peace to me might not be the same thing. I need to know what it is you're in search of. And their response is usually, well, happiness. No, that's just another emotion. Peace is an emotion. Peace is a feeling. Happiness is a feeling. And I'll say, okay, but give me in detail. What would be the thing, the feeling, the situation, the whatever it is you're searching for that you would say, I am now at peace? I have yet to have one client be able to answer that question. They'll
What is
deflect
peace?
it thinking they know what it is or thinking it know what they're looking for, but they've never really sat down within themselves and said, what is a peaceful life to me? What is a peaceful life to me? And what you usually determine, and again, this is the vast majority, is that what they're searching for is to release the discomfort that they feel in the moment. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that they're searching for peace, although that's what they feel like in the moment. They're searching for a feeling better than they have right now. But when we generalize it like that and say peace, but we haven't sat and figured out what the details of peace are to us, how do you know if you ever found it? So it causes us to be in this constant chase of a feeling. And this is going to be a little cliche, but I will detail it. In the state of this constant feeling because we're in search of something outside of us. We're in search of the thing or the person or the relationship or the house or the vehicle or the whatever thing we think will bring us peace, which most people affiliate with happiness. And the truth is that to be peaceful comes from within. And it has nothing to do on the outside. And I know how cliche that is. But I've done this work myself, and it's a big change that I've made, even in these last few months. I do actually use the tools that I work with people with.
And
Do you have somebody talking?
well, Denise Maple says, good morning.
Good morning, Denise. Denise, if you want to link in and chat on this topic, please feel free. I know that you're outgoing.
Yeah,
please feel free. I'll even go on the Jumbotron for you because I love you if you really want to link in.
Wow.
I know.
That's something.
I know, Denise. That's a big offering.
Yeah.
But don't feel forced, but you're more than welcome because I know this is a topic that we've discussed before and it's part of the work that you do as well. So if she chooses to do that, that's fine. If she doesn't, we don't chastise her.
No.
So people have affiliated peace with happiness. And even then when I say, okay, well, let's pretend it is the same. And tell me what's happiness for you. What brings you happiness? And again, it's a very rare instance that somebody can give me an actual example of what that is. And even when they do, it's still something outside of them. So here's the problem that comes along with that. If we associate peace and happiness with something or someone outside of us, it can be taken away. Mm-hmm. So if we feel that we have reached peace and happiness, but yet we've attached it to something that can be taken away. Do you know what we've created? Anxiety and fear.
And dependency.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where our codependent relationships come from. Absolutely. And so we've just created a new state of discomfort for ourselves. And like I said, I do practice the tools that I teach clients. And for several weeks, and I've talked about this on the air before, for several weeks before I went to Colorado, I sat in my own ick it was about 6 weeks. Every single weekend and oftentimes a night or two during the week, I would go sit in the woods just with myself and I would battle the sabotaging mind, the mind that told me everything was bad or this wasn't going to be a success or whatever it is, or why my relationship. And I learned different questions to ask myself, and now I do use them with clients. Go ahead.
Denise says, I'll stick to the chat. That's quite all right. No problem at all. She says, I'm getting the Maple, the one who just said.
No, which I was going to say, which means that she is not dressed with her makeup.
Oh, I thought you said which Denise. Okay,
no,
which
means she's not she doesn't want to be on a camera.
Okay, yeah, I probably should turn the volume up on these headphones over here in the booth. Denise, he says, I'm getting ready to go to breakfast. She's with a smiley face. She says, but yes, I have been contemplating this topic. I am at our family cabin for the last time. It is being sold. It is my happy place, but sad because this is the last time. That's tough.
And there's a section, and that's a good, thank you for bringing that up, Denise, because that's actually part of what we're going to talk about is that oftentimes when we're in search of peace, there are different segments to that causing discomfort. So Denise's example that she just shared would be is that she has to make peace with the fact that she has created a place that brought her happiness, and now it's going to be gone. And it's not that it's bad that she brought the place to make her happiness. I find the woods, but now that opportunity is going to be gone. So now she has to find a recentering of finding peace with the fact that that place is gone, but the peace she found while she was there is still within.
Yeah.
So recalling it, imagery, searching for a new place. But to just leave it and leave in anger or frustration or sadness, which are normal things that bring us to a state that we have to look at, we've now created anxiety. And what happens if we don't dissect that down a little bit is that not only do we create anxiety because now we feel we can't have happiness. And I know that that's not your case, Denise, but I'm using this for an example for other people. Not only do we feel the place that brought us happiness is gone, we're now have anxiety because it hurts that we fear that. And now we have anxiety about ever finding another place because we don't want to feel that again. So that happens when it comes to relationships, when we get our heart broken. I don't want to love and be vulnerable again because my heart was broken and I don't want to feel heartbroken again. Okay, but now you'll feel the discomfort of not having the connections that you're searching for. So we create this balance. So learning to live peacefully is a place within where we find those triggers, we find those wounds, we find those self-sabotaging things, and we question them and we challenge them from the adult perspective of mind. So from life, face it, life experience teaches us a lot, right? So we learn a lot as we grow older. Some things we learn we like, some things we learn we don't like, some things we learn we love about ourselves, some things we learn we don't like about ourselves. But our adult conscious mind can make the choice of what's good and bad for us now, where that child mind was only a sponge absorbing what was going on around them. So based on the examples that they received, the things that they heard, the traumas they may have experienced, so on and so on, the list goes on and on. That sabotaging voice is screaming, no, this can't be. So to find peace is truly within. And you have to find peace within. But there's a difference because then when you challenge these things and you conquer these things, and sometimes we can't conquer all of them, but by having an understanding of it alone is a big conquering. Just by understanding what's happening and why it's happening makes that sabotaging voice a little softer. We learn to live peacefully because we cannot change what's going to happen around us. We cannot change our environment around us, but we can change our perception of self and our perception of the angers that we've carried, the hurts that we've carried, the emotional turmoils, the decisions that we've made. And through neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis, we can alter our perception of those and change the way it sees so that we can live peacefully by understanding ourselves and knowing that no matter what happens around us, we know what we need to do and we know who we are within it.
Yeah.
That is lit in my view of living peacefully. Because when I sat in the woods for those weeks, I cried, I screamed, I cussed, I smiled, I felt peace. I felt all kinds of different emotions. But I learned to challenge myself with certain terms. When a self-sabotaging comment would come up, I would ask myself, do you have evidence of that? Do you have evidence of that truth? And then challenge that thought. Most of the time, I did not have evidence that what I was saying about myself was true. And when I did have evidence that what I said about myself, I would go to the next step and say, okay, where did that come from? And does it belong to me? So in other words, okay, where did that come from? What voice do I hear in my head? What memory of something being said to me? What action did I do? You know, whatever it is for the individual self. And sometimes it was me. And I say, okay, well, that's fabulous to know because I have the power to change how I move forward with that now, because that was actually my action that caused that feeling. More often than not, it's something someone said to us or an experience that we had that was caused by someone else's action. That's when we have to really dig and say, okay, but is this truth? And then we start to sort it out. I had a client come in once because and sometimes we don't know what's causing us to feel a certain way. And that's where that questionnaire comes in because it helps me to sort it out and know what questions to ask. Because I can't tell you everything that's going on with you because it will truly be pointless. My goal, and especially with neurolinguistic programming, is to understand it enough to ask the right questions that somebody's own mind unfolds. and is forced to kind of see and challenge those things themselves. Because when we see and challenge something ourselves, it's a lot more effective and lifelong than if someone just tells us. I'll nudge it. I'll say, have you ever considered? Do you see where this might be? I'll say those things, but I don't tell someone what's happening in their own mind. I help them to explore it and to open it up, because that's going to be lifelong. But the majority of the time, we are remembering what someone else said to us, or what someone else's situation was, or whatever someone else's trauma was, or what have you. And it has caused us in that moment to believe and make a decision that that was truth. And even though our adult conscious mind says, no, that is not the truth, I know that that's not the truth, I don't have evidence of it, that little voice in the head still believed and made that decision in that moment that that was truth. And through different tools and techniques, we can go in and we can actually kind of rewire that view and that thought process. Now, I've had people say that, like I said, I had somebody come in and in a couple sessions, I flat out said, are you ready to let go of the anger to your mother yet? And they sat quiet for a second, because it kind of jolted them, and said, no, I'm not. I just want to stop reacting to things the way I do because of it. Huh. Well, I want to go to Baskin Robbins and get chocolate peanut butter ice cream and make it not change my body or my clothes size too. Well. But so far, that has not been the case. So I had to overcome my need for Baskin Robbins. You know what I mean? I had to overcome that coping skill for Baskin Robbins. So, and I am that sarcastic in the office to make points. So you can't have one without the other. You can't say, I want to rid myself from my reaction to this trigger, but I don't want to do anything at the trigger.
Well, for me, it's I've been mostly listening to everything because this is very interesting. To me, my peace, my inner, it's just all inward. There's not Correct. Really much externally that impacts what I call my peace. I get peace and joy. I get those emotions from creating the environment that I'm in. So even when I'm doing things that are very, very stressful, I try to find something about that I like, right. Or, and I've talked about this before, I'll use an avoidance technique, which is focusing forward. Okay, so after I'm doing this, I'll be doing that, so that helps me find the peace within the thing I'm not happy about doing. But when I'm really looking to be peaceful, it's all inward. There are places I love being in the studio. It's fun, but that's an activity. It's an action. It's something that it's. Do
you like who you are when you're in the studio?
Oh, I like who I am everywhere.
Okay, so but that's my point. So you like who you are when you're in your studio, and the work that you do makes you feel proud and comfortable, and you're happy with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's okay. And it's funny because you use the avoidance technique as the terminology often, and I get that.
Well, I don't know what else to call it.
Right, that's what I'm going to bring up. Yeah. What if you said I make the choice not to put myself in those situations?
Well,
see how different that is?
Here, yeah, and there are situations which, on occasion, are necessary that have to do with things externally that I do career-wise or relationship-wise or life path-wise, and I do not enjoy or I do not like the activity that has to be done to get to where I have to be, right. To where I want to go. So I do adulting. The activity. That's just adulting. So I do the activity, and that's as simple as something like, I'm washing dishes, taking out the trash, to use mundane, because those are things like adulting you have to do if you don't want to live in a dirty, filthy home. But beyond that, adulting, if I'm not thrilled with the adulting activity, I think about, okay, well, when this is done, I'll be doing this, so this is all good. Because this activity here gets me to the next point. Right,
and that's a so
I don't know if that's
it's a well-filtered way of sorting it, but you've spent many years sorting it. The people who come into the office haven't done that yet, usually, and they're trying to discover how to go about doing that.
Yeah.
So when I said, "Are you ready to let go of your anger at your mother?" and they said, no, I just don't want to react to it anymore. You kind of can't have both. But here's the interesting
Gotcha.
part is that there's a misconception with what letting go of anger is, because it is forgiveness. But people seem to feel that forgiveness means that you're saying all the pain that was caused to you is justified and forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
That is not the case at all.
No.
It's finding a different perception of it, and finding, in truth, peace with it, to the aspect that you no longer allow it to control you. Because people don't understand that by holding anger against a human being, that's to the level that it's affecting your daily life, your daily thought processes, your relationships, you are empowering the person who harmed you.
Yeah.
You are truly empowering them, that you've handed your life over to them.
Well, yeah.
So to forgive it means to say, I cannot change what that person chooses to do. And I cannot change what has happened to me. And what has happened to me was wrong, and I was hurt. And I tell people, allow yourself to give yourself the comfort and the acknowledgement that you need. Sometimes you'll receive that from the outside world. Sometimes you won't. But acknowledge that pain was okay. And then be able to say truthfully, without having to remind yourself every second, I no longer wish for this person or the situation to control my life. I'm going to create the life that I choose. That's forgiveness, is to say, okay, I'm going to forgive myself. Sometimes it's because I put myself in a situation. I'm going to forgive myself for how I reacted. I'm going to forgive myself for all the people I harmed in my reaction to that other situation. Forgiveness is a very wide brand of it. But when we go inside and we say, you know what, yes, this hurt me. This justifiably hurt me. Rather than, sometimes we find some of the cliche comments and statements, to me, can be damaging. Because, when somebody's saying, oh my God, this hurt me, and they're crying, they'll say, you're stronger than that. Look at it differently. Some people genuinely can't look at it differently. So hypnosis and NLP helps them to see it from a different perspective, so that they can literally see it differently versus just being told. Because when you tell someone, just get over it, just look at it differently, just don't do that. Or there is a spiritual motivational speaker who tells everybody, all you have to do is get in the proper vortex of energy, and that will your whole life will change. Everything you want is right there. And I understand her concept, but it's a very broad concept for a very short sentence. And if you take somebody who's truly hurting inside, who's truly struggling, now face it, they do care, or they wouldn't be sitting on the other side of the desk asking to get help for that. So they do care. So to say they don't care is not true. They do care. They can't find the comprehension of how to stop it. They don't understand what's happening with it. So I say, when you say those cliche statements to somebody like that, that's genuinely hurting, they're more than likely, if you're important enough to them, they're going to fake that they understand what you say and that they're going to do that. But you've basically told them, you're failing at yet another thing. You can't even do this. And we don't have the compassion to understand that there are times, and I defy anybody to tell me that they've never felt this way. There are times that you've got something in your mind or in your heart, or you're feeling an emotion that is so strong that you truly cannot comprehend a way that it will ever go away. That you truly are so smogged down by it, you don't know how to make it stop. It does eventually stop. And maybe sometimes people forget about it or what have you, but we've all felt that at some point in life. And some people feel it more often. Some people hold on to it a long time. Some people really deal with the pain of it and carry it along with them. To tell someone like that, just do this, is so uncompassionate.
Well, it's completely demeaning and belittling and disregarding actually what they're going through.
Yes, absolutely.
To me, that's how I interpret that. Anytime you just say,
and maybe it's something that you think is stupid to be that upset about. Well, you know what? Maybe something that we feel is something they think is stupid to be upset about.
Yeah.
So to do that, and I do get clients that'll fall into the victim status when they're in their office, and when they're in my office, and truthfully, I allow that for a short period of time. Vent out that victim. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what you really feel victimized about, because that's going to help me sort out, okay, where were the decisions made and where are the triggers at? And let's relook at those and we break them down into smaller pieces. Because also to tell somebody, okay, well, we're going to solve all of these things in one, no, that's overwhelming. One step at a time. I just had a conversation with a client the other day. And a lot of times when I'm working with a client, some of the things that I come up with aren't really mine. I say that they're channeled in, because all of a sudden just the right thing will come out of my mouth. And it's not an educated thought process. It's just me going, oh, I need to say this just like this. And it's maybe even a term I don't use, but it'll all of a sudden just kind of come out. That to me is the peeps chiming in saying, say it like this and they'll get it. So I had a client who was really, really struggling, and they didn't see how life was ever going to be better. And they were very, in the moment of sadness and grief, they were very disillusioned about truth. Which is a very common factor for us all. When we get locked into that, we're very disillusioned about truth. So we had to break it down, because a situation had occurred where their life drastically changed because somebody else made a choice, and it drastically changed what their life was. And I said, tell me your pain. Tell me, define and detail that pain to me. I want to know, what is that pain? And they went in, and because I had the perfect life and the perfect situation and and it's all been ripped out from under me. I said, oh my God, you had perfect? Describe perfect for me in detail, because I want to know what perfect is. Please, I've never seen perfect. Please describe to me what perfect is, but I want details of perfect. Well, what happens is that's the rose-colored glasses of sadness and grief.
Sure. Yeah.
So once we take those off and I say, oh, please give me details of perfect. You always get some silence, because you got to think about it. If I had perfect, I'd be able to define it immediately.
Oh, yeah.
What perfect is.
Right away.
And then they go, well, maybe it wasn't all perfect. Oh, okay. What parts weren't perfect? And they'll start to make a little list. Okay. Now, what parts were perfect? Search. Quiet for a minute or two, and they'll say, well, wait a minute, there was some other stuff that wasn't perfect. Right. So it's just a matter that in grief and sadness, we have these rose-colored glasses of despair that say we can't have anything different because we already had the greatest. And so then we start to break it down. And I said, okay, so did you have perfect, or did you have better than you came from?
Big difference.
Correct. And they said, I had better than I came from. I said, beautiful, beautiful. That's such progress. So if you had better than you came from, you stepped upward and you had better than you came from. What an accomplishment. So do you have evidence to believe that if you've accomplished that once before in your life, you can accomplish that once again? Do you have evidence to believe that? Because has it occurred or not occurred? See, and all you're doing is taking the fog away of the reality. And so Spirit chimed in, because I was kind of breaking through, but I wasn't hitting the terminology apparently that was making it a feasible step. And it was so simple. I said, okay, you're at your home, because they didn't want to leave their house in the moment. Complete despair. Don't even want to get out of bed. I said, okay, so you're at your home and you decide that perfect is up the road. It's up your street, the end of the street. How do we get there? Does your bed magically fly like Harry Potter? How do we get there?
Did he have a flying bed?
I don't know. He had a flying broom.
Did he? Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know. What about bed knobs and broomsticks? Bed knobs and broomsticks had a flying bed, right?
I said, so what would you have to do? And she said, well, I'd have to get out of bed. I said, oh, beautiful. What would you probably do after that? I'd probably want to get dressed. Oh, okay, great. What would you probably do after that? Probably have to go downstairs and go outside. Oh, okay. And once you got out there to the sidewalk, what would you have to do? I'd have to take a step. I said, oh, so you'll have accomplished 5 different things that you're not accomplishing right now. So once you accomplish that first step, what would you have to do? Well, I'd have to take another one. Right, but you'd have to complete and accomplish the second step before what? Well, before I took the one after that. Thank you very much. How do we get up the street? And it's just a matter of breaking it down. Because if you're exhausted, and depression is exhausting, anger is exhausting.
Oh, geez, anger takes up so much
Oh,
energy.
yes, absolutely. So if you're exhausted and you can't even fathom climbing out of bed, up the street looks like impossible, right? Until you stop and you realize it's not that many steps to start moving.
No.
It's not, and that can be with anything in life. It doesn't have to be that you're in that state, but maybe you're in a job that you don't like. You know, I have somebody who's close to me that's in a job that they absolutely despise. Okay, but I have to do it. It pays me well. Okay. First off, you don't have to do it. You choose to do it because you want the pay. That's acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that, but let's put that into the proper perspective. You don't have to do it because it pays well. You choose to have that level of income for the life that you feel you need. And either one is fine. But let's be real about it. Because see, that's the kind of tricking that we do to our head, where we convince ourselves we don't have an option. But it's not even a conscious tricking. Then we go back to that inner unconscious thought process, this belief. What in life told you that if you didn't make this much money, you weren't successful? What in life told you if you didn't have it? You know, like it's still, we always revert back to what that is. So, okay, so you feel you need this income to live the life you want, and you have made the choice to remain in a job you hate to have it. Acceptable. Not even a criticism.
No.
But let's go into reality of this, because see what that does? It starts to break down that picture that says we have no options. So, okay, cool. So you want to make that income and you hate what you're doing. What do you like doing? What do you enjoy? What makes your heart sing? What makes you forget about everything else in the world when you're doing it? What makes you feel proud? Well, you know, what's that thing? We all have a different reaction. I like going into the office because no matter what kind of chaos is going on in my personal life or in my outside world, when I'm in the office, I'm in the office.
Right.
All of that goes away. It's almost meditative, you know? And that's how I know, for me, that's my space. That's my thing. You know, so it's different for everybody. And oftentimes the answer is this: I don't know. I don't have time. I don't have time for that because I'm always working on this job. Huh. So you're angry that you're so miserable? Yeah. Okay. So what choices from your outside environment are creating that misery that you don't have control of? Well, my boss sucks and my coworkers this and my, okay. Okay, that's great. They probably do. Sorry. That's terrible. That's terrible. Whose choice was it to stay at the job for the money that they're making? And what is the price you're paying? You're only seeing the money coming in and the things you're receiving for it. What price are you paying?
Yeah.
What cost does this job have for you? What is your health? What is your relationship status? I don't mean single or not single. I mean relationship status. Whether you're in a relationship or not. Is your relationship freaking miserable because you're always at work and you come home a bear? You know, what are your friends? Do you have any friends? Because oftentimes you'll find that they really don't have a social life and they don't trust people. Some people who are incredibly successful find that the people around them are out for their status, not for who they are. So what is this costing you? And you really put it into perspective. And I'm going to do a show, and I got to order the book. There's a book that they used at the school in a class that I took, and it really does break down those things for you, but it does it in a financial way. To where you start to put a dollar value on the things that you accomplish. Doesn't have to mean you earned money. You're putting a dollar value on the accomplishments that you have, and a dollar value on the things that you enjoy, and a dollar value on the things that you don't enjoy. And it breaks it down into money, because face it, we're a money society, right? Our brain comprehends money for the most part.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm actually going to do a group on it, but I've got to order the books for it. But it breaks it down, and every day you fill it out for what you did that day based on the money values that you've placed on these things. And it shows you what you've earned or what you've lost. It's very interesting how it comes out, because what it does is it changes your perception of money and it changes your perception of value. They say, and I have not done it yet. I'm going to tell you, I've taken the class and I've got to order the books, but I have not done it with a group of people yet. But what it does is people end up actually being more successful and able to manifest because all of a sudden the things that they focus on are different. And when you find things that you focus on that you enjoy and that bring you pleasure or that make you feel fulfilled, you thrive towards them. But when we've only attached that to a dollar figure, we're miserable. And again, is that peaceful living? Can the dollar figure be removed? You can lose your job. You can find your job as important as you freaking want to, and you can lose that job in an instant. So you've attached your peace. Mm-hmm. You've attached your peace of mind, right? So to live peacefully means, yes, I'm going to find these things and I'm going to do these things and I'm going to do these things that make me feel good and is very important to me. But you're going to be peacefully knowing if something didn't turn out or something changed, it's me who did it.
Right.
That boss who's a jerk or that coworker who throws you under the bus or, whatever it is no longer in control of you and your life. You're responsible for you. And in that peacefulness, what you find is that your integrity level increases because you no longer have the need or desire to please somebody else. Because what we find is that oftentimes, especially in family dynamics, the people we are attempting to get approval from the most are the people who effed us up in the first place.
All right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
So we're out seeking for all these outside approvals. Where are we going to get them? And is that peace? Is it peace when your father finally says, God, I'm proud of you, because maybe they haven't for 40 years? Is that peace? That might be a moment of satisfaction, a moment of pleasure, a moment of feeling good. But is that peace? Because will it be enough? Or will you seek now to get approval again, a higher state of approval? Now you'll do more. And even though you're doing more and you're working harder, what are you still seeking? You're seeking another level of approval because
Right.
You received it. You received a taste of it. And while you're chasing all of that, you're what? Friggin' miserable.
Yeah.
Constantly feeling that you don't have something. Constantly feeling that if you don't get this from this other person, you will not be able to be happy, or you are not successful, or you are not whatever it is.
Right.
It is human nature to seek approval from others. Human nature says that we would like to have people like us, that we would like to have people envy us in truth, but maybe in a positive type of envy. We would like to be an example that somebody uses of doing better, feeling better. That's our human nature to feel good, to want to feel better. The dysfunction comes from within when we don't see ourselves until we receive that. I have had someone flat out ask me who has dysfunctional children. I've talked about this on the air before. How do I save my children? My response is always the same. By saving yourself, by healing your guilt, by taking care of the pain within you, by coming to peace with the mistakes that you made, and healing and working on you and moving forward in happiness, moving forward being peaceful, moving forward with pride and the healing and the work that it took to do that. Well, how will that save my children? Well, it may or it may not. It may or it may not. But when and if your children's light bulbs, is what I call it, choose to go on and say, hey, the life I'm living sucks. I hate it. Who will they want to be by their side? When they come to you, if they came to you right now, you're in a do as I say, not as I do state. Mm-hmm. Should they come to you down the road and you are peaceful and happy and come to terms with the past and left it in the past and created new futures and taking care of your health and you're looking good and feeling good and you're having healthy relationships in your life, you are now in the see what I've done, I can show you the tools. You're giving them hope of possibility. You're giving them hope that it can happen. You're showing them the truth that it did happen. You're teaching them through example.
Yeah.
And the whole time you're doing that, you're freaking peaceful and happy. Well, what if their light bulb never goes on? What if it doesn't? Either way, you're miserable.
Yeah, if you don't make those changes either way.
And you know what happens if their light bulb does go on? And you didn't do all that and you're not who you wish you were for them in that moment, you feel you failed yet one more time. So there's no negative in the peaceful and happy.
And if their light bulb does go on, guess who they don't go to?
Exactly. And now instead you're the example of why. Why couldn't we go to you? Well, look at you. So it doesn't have to do with how they would see the person. It has to do with how the person sees themselves. Because we get very distorted that I can't be forgiven for my past if I don't receive forgiveness from the people that I harmed. And Pence and I talked about this a little bit last week. I'm sorry is a very common term used in our society that has become fairly meaningless.
Yeah, sorry doesn't mean anything. The word,
right?
Yeah,
just, and to say, I'm sorry. To me, a true apology, and we talked about this last week. I had it on the board in the classroom that said an apology without change is just manipulation,
right?
Because you're just trying to solve the instant problem. To me, a true apology, if someone has truly caused harm, is to also take accountability, and then you can find self-forgiveness. So to say, I am truly sorry that I behaved the way that I did, that I didn't find better in myself, and that harmed you. I am working on that within myself to change that in the future, but I'm genuinely sorry that I didn't do it and it harmed you. And then walk away, because here's the truth. You can't change what you did. But how many people can say it if the person who harmed us or hurt us or caused harm said to us, I am truly sorry that happened, and I see where it hurt you, and I wish I could change it, but I can't. But I'm going to change me so it doesn't happen again, but I'm very sorry it hurt you, and then walked away. There's a satisfaction even to the person who's hearing it. They may not forgive you. They may choose to hold their anger. They may choose to live in their anger. But there is a piece of that of a seed planted where somebody feels seen.
Yeah.
They feel seen, because a lot of our anger, if we really look at the truth of it, when we're mad at another person, is that we don't feel that they saw how much it hurt us and we wanted seen. So in that apology, we're feeling seen. These are just some of the tools, but these are the different types of ways that if we can find those things within ourselves and those truths within ourselves, and we can then let them go, we can live peacefully. Because once we've accomplished, and that's again just one example, but once we've accomplished that, guess what happens? The trigger to that situation is gone.
Yeah.
You've rectified it. You found peace within it with that situation to the best of your ability that you were able to change. Now you can let it go. It's no longer this lingering project that needs to be done. Because when we take off the rose-colored glasses and we say, what more could I do in this situation to change it? The majority of the time is there really isn't much. It happened. You can take accountability. You can genuinely change and have learned from that situation, which shows you are sorry for the harm you caused someone. And then go forward. And if that person chooses to remain in anger, hating you, blessings to them, because anger is a horrible thing to carry.
Well, anger, it's just, like you said earlier, it's just so exhausting. It drains completely. It takes so much energy. And it took me a long time to learn that myself. It took me over 40 years to learn that.
Right.
But, it's just absolutely draining. Now, that doesn't mean you don't, just because I learned that doesn't mean I don't get angry.
Absolutely. But anger is an emotion, and it's an accepted emotion.
But it means I recognize it. And then I understand, okay, why am I so pissed off right now? Why am I so angry at the moment?
Right.
Okay, do I need this?
Getting
in
angry,
the moment, maybe, if I feel like it's justified. And again, that's an internal feeling. It's an internal examination for me. Do I feel like I am justified in my anger? Sometimes when I reflect on it, I think, you're kind of getting carried away with this. Other times, this sucks. I'm pissed off. And here's why.
Anger is a justifiable emotion. It's a human emotion, and we're all going to feel it. The difference is that when people live in a state. See, to have an emotion is momentary. So to have an emotion is a reaction to a situation. Okay, so that's an emotional reaction to a situation. It's hit something within us that's caused an emotional response, whether it be anger, whether it be sadness, whether it be hurt, whatever it is, or whether it be happiness or joy. Okay, those are emotional reactions. But a state, to be in a state, is the state that we feel, the balance that we feel to be in the state. So some people have chosen, and they don't even realize consciously that they've chosen it, but some people have chosen to remain in a state of anger. So in other words, they almost live nonstop with their angry switch on. Now, here's the interesting thing is that people think that when somebody lives in a state of anger, living in a state of anger actually just means my hurt and my fear is so great that if I remain angry, nobody can hurt me. That's the state of that. So you're actually, if we can look at somebody who lives in a state of anger and realize they have been hurt to the point that they are so horrified to ever feel that hurt again that they will deflect all energies away from them that could possibly be hurtful by being angry. It's a challenge. It's a way to deflect those things. But they choose to be in that state of anger because it's too scary to look otherwise. And if we look at it, what's interesting, and I've had clients that have admitted that and come in and they're tired of being angry. I've actually had people say the words, I'm tired of being angry. I'm just a bad person. Oh, no, but that's not the same thing. No. Well, it is, I'm a bad person because I'm angry all the time. No, let's dissect that. First off, you're angry all the time because something is so emotionally hurtful and you're so afraid to feel it again that anger has surfaced. But if you were a bad person, you wouldn't be sitting on the other side of the desk saying, I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of how it affects people around me. I'm tired of how other people feel. That's not, a bad person doesn't do that.
No.
We have to sort out the pieces. We have to remove the fog so that we can look at it, but we look at it in piece by piece by piece by piece things so that there can be and feel progress. The majority of clients when they leave the office are feeling some sort of progress, whether it be a baby step, whether we just stepped out of the bed and stood up, or whether we made it down to the friggin' front door to the sidewalk that day. That's going to vary based on the situation and how difficult it is. But there's always a step forward. And people come in and they're beating themselves up oftentimes. I'll say, but you already took your first step. Doesn't it feel amazing? Well, I did not take my first step. I'm miserable. Did you not call and say I want something to change? Did you not call and say there's something about what I'm doing that I want to change how I'm doing it? Well, of course I did. That's why I called you. There's your first step. You know how many people in life don't take accountability and say it's me? There's many people that walk around and say, well, I'd be happy if they would do this and 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 they would do this. Well, okay, how much control do you have over that?
None.
So it's that reflection inward that says, I have something I want to change. I'm going to take a step to see if this works. That's a conscious step. That's the getting out of bed.
It is. It's a conscious step. And even here's something really, to me, internally, it's kind of dumb, but it's my step. I've been eating some vegetables. I hate vegetables. I can't freaking stand vegetables. But I've also spent the last 14 days moving more than I have moved in probably 10 years, like physically moving around last 14 days. And when you're built like Mary Catherine, my wife hates this phrase because I say it all the time, but when you're built like a snowman on toothpicks and you make those toothpicks carry that snowman, those toothpicks start feeling pretty uncomfortable after 14 days straight moving around. But the little baby step is eating carrots, eating peas, eating green beans, and, actually eating for breakfast this morning instead of some really fatty stuff, some granola with cranberries in it. It wasn't bad. I
have come up with a morning oatmeal concoction where I make oatmeal and I do put a little bit of maple syrup in it just because I like the flavor of it. I put a little bit of maple syrup in it. Yeah. But then I put granola in it. I put cinnamon in it because cinnamon helps to balance your blood sugar. Yeah. And then I cut up either an apple or a banana in it. And it's really, that's my big meal of the day is breakfast. And this big heaping bowl. But you're right. You took the step to say my body needs these things and I may not like it, but I'm going to baby step towards it.
And then I've had to pretty much almost entirely cut out beef. I love red meat. Red meat is,
but the scale tip. You don't love red meat more than the way you feel.
Yeah, the more I do not love red meat more than the pain that it causes. And
I know
so,
many people that
yeah.
remain in a physical state of discomfort, pain, and illness because they'll accept 10 or 15 things that are wrong because they don't like the one or two fixes that comes along
Hey,
with it. And I just did this, and I hope this person's not listening. They're going to be angry. Um, as we talked about before, part of my journey on those weeks was to discover why I put on all this weight. What decision did I make in life that said this was the thing that would keep you safe? And I went through that process, and we don't have enough time to get into all of it on the air, but it had to do with assault and it had to do with things like that. And so now I just don't, not that I never have sugar, but I don't crave food for comfort. I don't crave carbs anymore. I just, and it's not a battle. I just truly don't crave them because I came to the realization of why I did and went, oh, wait a minute, but I'm not a little girl anymore. And I'm kind of a confident, outspoken woman who doesn't live in a lot of fear. So I don't need that anymore.
yeah,
But here's the other key. I said, thank you to the little girl. Thank you for the part of me that protected me all these years. Thank you for making me comfortable. Thank you. I see why you made these choices. We don't need to make those choices anymore, but I can see why they were there. See where that balance is? Because
yeah,
there's an acceptance. I wasn't wrong to make those choices. And the moment that I made those choices and decisions, it was my life experience for whatever reason to make the decision that kept me safe.
yeah,
That was its goal. And now by looking back at it, I go, okay, but that doesn't keep me safe. Actually, that hasn't really been effective, but I see why I did that. But I don't need that anymore. And that acceptance made the battle not happen. Do you see? Because
yeah,
if I would have said, what a stupid thing to do, well, now I've just caused myself to have another thing to feel bad about. And the truth
right.
is that assault at a young age, for whatever reason, I made the decision that if I would physically unappealing, then therefore no predator would want me. And that actually has not been the case. But when I was that age, that made sense.
Yeah, right.
So now that I've acknowledged that and I've went into that inner unconscious mind and went, hey, I see why that's there. Let's unplug that though, because that doesn't make sense anymore. And I am kind of confident and I don't really live in fear and I'm a little outspoken and I don't walk around afraid of everything. So we don't need that anymore. But thank you. I see you kept me safe all these years. I see why that happened. And then just let it go. Those are all parts of kind of self-forgiveness. And it made me change how I eat and how I even see food. And it doesn't do anything for me anymore, But I know people who will continue it because they're afraid to look at the damage that they've done to themselves, or it's a self-sabotage thing. Some people feel that they deserve to feel miserable, physically, mentally, emotionally. And that by somehow the physical pain is causing some kind of penance to be paid. I see it all the time. Those are all different things. And you decided that as much as you love red meat, you don't love the way it makes you feel. So your scale just tipped because now it became
Yeah.
a conscious thing. It's no longer like, oh my God, I'm going to eat this meat and I know I'm going to feel miserable tomorrow. But you accepted that. You
Yeah.
accepted the fact
There,
that
there
that's how
were,
it's gonna be.
yeah.
But all
For
of a
a
sudden you
while,
went,
there
I
was a
feel
point.
really,
Yeah.
really shitty and I'm kind of tired of feeling shitty.
Yeah.
And your scale started to tip.
Yeah.
I don't like how I feel more or than I love red meat. So now I'm going to give up the red meat and
Yeah.
you're still, but that had to be a conscious choice. For years, you have known that red meat affects you
Oh,
this
yeah.
way. And for
Yeah.
years, you said, I'm going to eat it anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
'Cause
something in you went, I don't like this anymore. I don't want this anymore. Something gurgled up. We don't know what it is. We can't always tell for sure. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. But the scales tipped. And that's why I talk about the tipping of the scales. So now, if you walk up to somebody right now that you meet that has the same issue with red meat, would you dare tell them, well, stop it?
oh no.
Right,
Not at
because
all.
some people told you that for years, right?
Oh yeah.
But their scale has to
Yeah.
tip. But what you could say
For years,
instead
the
is,
doctor said you need to cut down on this.
Right.
No, I don't. I like that.
but what you could say to them is, I had that problem too. And I found that when I decided that I didn't like how I felt, when I added vegetables to my diet as much as I didn't like them, I became accustomed to vegetables and I
Yeah.
felt so much better. And then walk away. That's seed planting.
Yeah.
That's not criticizing. That's not
No.
seed planting,
It's not. And even last night, a little, Mary, we got 2 minutes. She made some pork tenderloins last night, which I absolutely love and adore. The only pork my body gets along with is bacon and ham, especially when it's been cured. Regular pork, my body does not like, but I love the way it tastes. It's been a while. And I had a little bit. All right, this is good. Then she said, do you want a little more? And I went, yeah.
and you knew.
And
A
a little
part of
bit,
you knew.
a part of me definitely knew. And about an hour later, that part of me said, "Yeah, dumbass."
You know what? And not that I'm a doctor. I will always
But
say I'm not a
you
doctor.
know, yeah,
That sounds like if I were you, I would go. My favorite place is Nature's Cornucopia, but there's other places around here, and ask them about digestive enzymes
yeah.
because there are actually tablets that you can chew that give you an enzyme that help break up certain proteins when you digest them. Because
And it may be because
the things that bother you are all meats.
bacon and ham don't do that to me within
Well,
the
bacon
pork
and hams
family.
are fat and salt, so that's something
Yeah.
totally different.
Beef, I can't do it. And now we're down to 1 minute, which we don't
So-
need to talk about my diet.
Yeah,
on
we're going
your
to talk
show.
about Pete's GI tract.
Yeah.
No, but really, I would go check it out because there's some digestive enzymes. You may just have a hard time breaking down proteins. So
It
I
could
would go in there and ask them. You chew them up before you eat.
It could be. So 1 minute, how does everybody get a hold of you?
You can contact me. Oh, I never even said that in the beginning. You can call or text me at 262-573-7055. You can contact me through Lisa's Changing Perceptions at Gmail, through lisaschangingperceptions.com. You can always find me on Facebook under Lisa's Changing Perceptions, or you can contact me at 216thenet.com and Pete will get any messages to me. And for the record, for those of you who are looking to maybe save a little bit of money or maybe don't want to come in every week, I have developed, and I don't have time to give them all out right now, new packages and plans. If you're just looking for somebody to kind of talk to and push you through once a month for a few months to change a habit, or twice a month, I'm setting up programs where it's once a month or twice a month for either 3 or 6 months. You can choose, and I do them at a discounted rate, but they are not in person. They are via phone or webcam.
All right.
So just as a money saving option, it's a new program. I'm just like in the last week started. And we're going to go ahead and see how that works just to kind of help people out. Some people don't want to do the weekly thing, but they wish they had somewhere to go once or twice a month to push them through whatever it is they're trying to get through, whether it be food changes, whether it be life changes, whether it be whatever it is, just kind of that encouragement to shove forward. And each week we would just find out what's your struggle this week. What do we need to do? Let's attack it. Boom, go to the next week. So if you're looking for something like that versus a real therapeutic type of a thing. Thank you for joining in. Look forward to seeing you next week. I think we're going 50-50 whether we see next week. There's some stuff going on, so please check. It may be a rerun next week. That's up in the air, so just FYI, but I'll be back the following week regardless.
There we go.
So have a good weekend.